I do want to explain what I posted on SI.com and what you saw on my social media with respect to my fighters of the year. My 2023 male fighter of the year was Devin Haney. My 2023 female fighter of the year was Amanda Serrano. Now, Amanda Serrano, I think, is uncontroversial. She won 3 times in 2023. She became the undisputed champion at 126 pounds in February. She defended her titles in the summer. And then towards the end of the year, I believe it was November, she fought 12 3-minute rounds, which was precedent breaking in women's boxing in a title defense as well. So she had a really strong year in what was a relatively down year when it came to women's fighters of the year. So Amanda Serrano, women's fighter of the year, strong candidate, no issues there. I saw her name atop a lot of lists out there of the awards winners. Devin Haney. So to me, there were 3 candidates for male fighter of the year. They were Bud Crawford, they were Naoya Inuoe, and they were Devin Haney. On the outskirts, you had David Benavidez, really good year. Gervonta Davis, really good year. Bam Rodriguez, really good year. But those guys to me were second-tier candidates, at least when compared to the 3 guys I mentioned at the top. Bud Crawford had the best win by far. Beating Errol Spence and the way in which he beat Errol Spence, that was the most impressive performance of 2023, hands down. That was a fight that was the most anticipated fight of the year. It was the most anticipated welterweight fight since Mayweather-Pacquiao. That fight was a big deal, and Terence Crawford won it going away. So he gets a lot of credit for that. My issue with Crawford is obvious. He only fought 1 time in 2023. So as great as that win was, I just needed 1 more fight out of him to put him above Inuoe and Haney on my fighter of the year ballot. In another year, against other competitors, I might have been able to vote for Bud Crawford again, for fighter of the year. But because his competition was so fierce, that 1 win, even though it was a great win, just wasn't enough for me to name Bud as fighter of the year. Inuoe was the runner-up on my ballot. And this was as close a runner-up to first place as you could possibly get. What Inuoe did to Stephen Fulton was the second most impressive performance of the year, right behind what Crawford did to Spence. Fulton came into that fight in the spring as the unquestioned king of 122 pounds. He was undefeated. He had some quality wins. He was an excellent fighter. And Inuoe just beat him up. Moving up, his first fight at 122, just beat him up. The end of that fight, seeing Fulton just kind of crumpled in the corner after Inoue's shot after shot put him down, that was impressive. That was the second best win of 2023. The Tapales win was really good and really meaningful. But going into that fight, and I said this on the podcast, you can go back and listen to previous episodes. I didn't think that much of Marlon Tapales. He was the legitimate unified champion, got that win over MJ Akhmadaliev, deserved that win over MJ Akhmadaliev, but I just didn't give him any chance against Inuoe in that fight. So great win for Inuoe against Fulton. Good to decent win against Tapales, even though it had great meaning to it. What impressed me about Haney was that I thought he had 2 really high-quality, competitive, or should have been competitive wins. The Lomachenko fight in May. I know there's a lot of people out there, and I've talked to them in the aftermath of my awards posting, who believe Lomachenko won that fight. Fine. I'm not going to argue with you. You saw the fight one way, 3 judges saw the fight another way. If you want to say the Lomachenko-Haney fight was disputed, fine. Don't say it's controversial. When you have 2 judges that scored the fight, 115, 113, and you say, scored the fight 115, 113 the other way. That's not a robbery. That's two great boxers putting on a masterclass that three solid judges see a particular way. Look, full transparency, I was in Vegas that night. I scored the fight for Vasily Lomachenko. But when the judges' scorecards were announced, I had no problem with Haney coming away as the winner because the fight was that close. The rounds were that competitive. Haney's body work was that good. His accuracy with his power shots was that good. Yes, you look at the final punch stats. Lomachenko threw like 189 more punches overall, but Haney's accuracy, his body work, I think he did enough to win 7 rounds on 2 of those judges' scorecards. 16-12, that was a little wide. 7-5, I'm okay with that. So that was a great win for Devin Haney. And the Prograis fight, look, I was on record as saying I thought Prograis, going into that fight, was the number 1 guy in the junior welterweight division. It's not because the fight was on DAZN. It's not because I like Regis Prograis. It's because Regis Prograis was effectively a career-long junior welterweight who was a 2-time junior welterweight champion. You want to argue that Teofimo Lopez is better pound for pound or Subriel Matias is better pound for pound. Okay, I can buy that. But at this weight class, Regis Prograis had accomplished more than anybody else had accomplished that was still there, except for Josh Taylor. And Josh Taylor, at that time, had not looked good. Had the close win over Jack Catterall and the loss to Teofimo. So I thought Prograis was number 1. Devin Haney moves up in his first fight at 140. First fight. And completely embarrasses Regis Prograis. You know how hard it is to get all 3 judges to agree on a complete shutout? 120, 107 all 3 times? Stunning performance by Regis Prograis. So, by Devin Haney, sorry. So, those 2 wins right there, given the caliber of opposition and how Devin just comprehensively beat Regis in that second fight, that gave him just enough of an edge over Inoue on my unofficial Fighter of the Year ballot. If you voted for Inoue, no problem with that. Tremendous year. If you voted for Bud Crawford, no problem with that. Unbelievable year. I thought Brian McIntyre, Bud's trainer, was the trainer of the year. So a lot of credit coming out or going into that camp. But for me, Devin Haney, Fighter of the Year, 25 years old. And I think if nothing else, Devin has proven he wants all the smoke. His first real title defense after he got done with George Kambosos, he comes back and fights Lomachenko. You didn't have to fight Lomachenko. Could have fought anybody else in a title defense. A much easier title defense. His first fight at 140, he fights Regis Prograis. He didn't have to fight Regis Prograis. Could have fought anybody in his next fight. Devin wants the toughest fight. So it's not going to surprise me if in the first half of this year, if it's not Ryan Garcia, it's somebody else really tough. In the second half of this year, maybe it's a tough fight at 147. Devin's a guy that's proven over the last couple of years that he wants the biggest and the best fights. And that to me was one of the biggest reasons why he was my 2023 Fighter of the Year.